Hello everyone. So I'm back with the I don't know which episode, fifth episode of our regular Flutter book club, and today we'll be covering chapters seven, six, no, 7 and 8, which is navigation, and then we'll try to go over deep link and web URLs. So I have not prepared anything. Let's see how it goes. I'll be reading the book and yeah. So before any of that about me and what this is, so we are doing a series of episodes where we will review this book, which is from Ray Wenderlich. It's on Flutter. It's Flutter Apprentice by Ray Wenderlich. And let me show you the book here. So yeah, this is the book, and it is available for free for until January 6th, and anyone can get a copy and learn. So great. And we are trying to do this every weekend to hopefully help you uh, stay on track or stay motivated to do something every day or every week. And yeah, so let's get started. Hmm. Okay. So here it is. And right now, so far, what we have tried already in past chapter is navigator.push using a material route. It was pretty simple, and that is what navigation is. You try to uh, push your pages, or say open your pages, or pop, that means close your pages, as simple as that. And then that those simple things were there in navigator 1.0, and then later uh, with Flutter 2 we got navigator 2.0, which has a lot of features where you can see the navigation stack and interact with it directly. So, and there are so many other features that will help us later with the large project. If if ever you try to build a medium scale to large scale project, which is going to be having a lot of screens, then this will help. Okay. What next? So Navigator 1.0 has two methods. So most simply, push and pop, which you can use to push and pop pages. Then the syntax is like this: navigator.push, and you can give an instance of material page route and can build a route for your screen or your page. And then if we move forward, so there is a disadvantage that you have the tree, but when you are using 1.0, you cannot really do a lot of things. Like, for example, if you want to remove the onboarding screen from the middle of the stack which is shown, so this onboarding screen cannot you cannot interact with it directly. And then comes Navigator 2.0, which lets you completely access navigator's page stack, then can do a lot with it. And backward compatibility, so it doesn't matter if you have already used navigator methods, push and pop, and even if you are upgrading to Flutter 2.0 where this navigator 2.0 is available, you do not have to change anything. Then it also works better with system's back button, for example, on Android or on iOS. Then you can create multiple navigators, and whenever you simply try to do navigator.push or pop, you can choose that which navigator you want to use. So your navigation stack will be created that way. Then manage navigation state. So what this means is that uh, your navigator will follow the state and not what you push and pop. You can change the state of the navigator and then it will adjust accordingly. So here is a data flow kind of diagram which shows how it works. So let's start with app state. So app state request changes to navigator, and it goes to a class called router delegate. It rebuilds the router and gets a newly configured navigator for rebuild, and then it yeah, that's it. So your navigation is updated. And similarly, if you receive an operating system event like backtrust, uh, you can use that info to pop a route using router delegate, and it will again alter the app state, and app state altering it will rebuild your router, and then it will be updated. Similarly, um, it, the operating system can also give you intents uh, which are coming from outside the app, and using that information can let the router delegate know what you want to do with it, and it will alter the app state and the router configuration automatically. So that is convenient. Okay, so now there is this another thing. So this again shows the same thing. This is telling us that um, whenever you press the button, you can change the state of navigator, your app state, and it will adjust the router and navigator accordingly. Yeah. So feel free to read all this again. I'm just quickly skimming. Is Navigator 2.0 always better? So should you always set up all the Navigator 2.0 stuff? Nope, it is not needed. You can start with simple push pop and the methods that you know already, and later when you actually need it, you can switch to 2.0 using features related to 2.0. So okay, so let's start with the example. Should we start with example? Let's start with finished example instead of going with the initial one. We try to find out that app. Hmm, open it in VS Code. Hmm, okay, and I'll open that file. Open folder. And the chapter is 7th. I'll open the final project directly. Get packages and whatever this is. We check Flutter Doctor if it is all right. It is showing some error. So no idea what is happening. I think I should manually close the Dart uh, things. Hmm. Quitting everything, and I don't know what this is. Can I find Dart? No. Then yeah, here. Okay. Okay. Try to open code again. The terminal show something? No, it's all right. Okay. We'll try to do pubget again. Start IS simulator. It is here. Good. Okay, it's doing something. All right, no problem. Um, we'll get back to what we were doing. Reviewing the book. Yeah, yeah. So in this one, we are going to do use WebView and smooth page indicator. I don't know why, but we'll know when we run. Okay, let's move forward. So okay, it says Flutter WebView will depend on STK 19, so minimum has to be 19. Okay, So this is the screens that we are going to have in the demo app, and this is all the process, and it is just showing the flow of the app. So these are the first three screens in the order, and then after you have logged in all three tabs, and with another with an empty state for the last one to buy. Then there is profile screen, then there is grocery item details, or say add grocery item, and then there is web view screen. So what's next? Managing your app state. So in the models directory, it wants us to create a new app state manager, and it has a few properties: is initialized, logged in, onboarding complete, get selected tab. Okay, okay. Managing the app's navigation stack, sorry, navigation state. Okay, looks like now we are going to have the selected tabs with names. So if we, and they are stored as enum for ease of dev, and here is the initialization. So initialization is okay. Initialization is whatever that you have to do when the app starts. So once everything is done, then you can call that your app is initialized. For example, you are trying to get some initial data like feature flags or some information before showing anything in the app. Then there is login. Let's see if the app is ready. Yeah, it is. Okay, so here after logging in, it is showing me this. Great. Complete onboarding will set the complete onboarding to true, and similarly, changing selected tabs will do the same thing. It will update the state and then notify listeners to rebuild anything that depends on it. Then adding the logout capability in the same file, we can log out by resetting all the app state to the initial values. For example, here logged in is equal to false, onboarding complete is equal to false, initialized is equal to false, and selected tab to the first one 0. So resets everything, all the properties, and then reinitializes the app, and then notify all the listeners for the state change. So your app will go to the first page of the first screen, and it will feel like as if it was launched as new. So this is again the same thing, app state manager, and we are providing it using change notifier provider, and then creating the router, and router will have app router and then build method and set router path, and here we will lay out all our pages, and navigator key, what is this? Okay, we'll add our listeners here. Okay, let's move to the code itself and see how it is being done. So if we go to main app, we must find app router here. So app router is nothing but all the pages, I think. Nope, all the managers that we have passed. And then we have a consumer over material app, is it? Yes, material app. And back, okay, on in the router, we are passing the app router, and we have a back button dispatcher too. So, okay, there is an inbuilt thing called back button dispatcher, and the default, okay, and this dispatcher listens to your platform's pop route notifications. When the platform wants to pop the current route, the dispatcher calls back button dispatcher dot invoke callback method to handle the request. Okay, I think it is just to handle the back buttons. Let's look at app router and how it is built here. Okay, so the same thing that we saw. So here app router has all the, this is the listener. So when the state manager changes, it will call notify listener, something like that. We'll look at it later. And in the build method, we have our navigator widget, which has a navigator key, and we have also kept the navigation key here just in case if you want to use it. And then we have all the pages, and what we are doing here is deciding whether we want to switch to a page depending on the state of the app. So here the first thing is app state manager dot is initialized. So if your app is initialized, you can open splash screen page. Then if your app state manager is initialized and the user is not logged in, then you open login screen. And similarly, if onboarding is not complete, you open onboarding screen. and if it is complete, then only home page. And another state is creating a new item. It will open the page with grocery items, where you can edit or add grocery items, and we are also uh, passing on create and on update methods in it. And grocery manager dot selection index is selected index is equal to -1. Then what it will do, it will open grocery item screen, and then it will pass all the things. We'll look at it later. So now there is this handle pop. So no idea what it is saying, but in short, if you are trying to pop, then if you are on onboarding path, onboarding page, then popping or pressing back button will also call logout. So that way your app actually gets logged out and all the data gets cleared, all the app state. So here it is doing, that it is just checking the name of the route and then reacting to what to do when we are at on that route and the tab button was pressed. Yeah, that's it for app router. And later if we go into pages, let's see, mostly it will be very similar to what we have already seen. Okay, and here, if you have not already uh, followed chapter 3 4, then you may go ahead and see that here what they are doing is decoding the data string that is there as a JSON file, and then we are just converting it to JSON, to our data class from JSON, and then using it. That's it. This can also be done by using proper HTTP calls, which can fetch data from web server, a remote web server. Let's head back. We have created a router. Now it is time to use it. It used it uh, in main app. Then to show the splash screen, the main path is set using name. Then to let the app automatically transition to login screen, we're using this page static member just to build the page and give it back. So advantage of this approach is that your every page, all of your page will create an instance for itself, and the code for it will live in that page's file. So that becomes convenient if you have a lot of screens, lot of pages, can define all the pages in their own respective classes and then use it. use it inside your router. So similarly, it has all the transitions and for every single page. Now, um, now it has this opening of a view. So whenever this a button is pressed somewhere, then we want to open this web view with our page revendelic.com. So what we have done here, what they have done here is in router itself, we have created another path for web view in the similar fashion, and that's it. And handling back button. So what it does is when you tap back button, it listens to it, and then you can decide with what do you want to do with the back button by checking which page you are on right now, and going back should do what. For example, if you are on the page where there is no back stack, so there is no pages in the stack, if you pop and if you want to press back button, it will definitely quit the app. But you want to avoid it somehow, probably ask the user if they really want to quit, then you can use this back button dispatcher and decide whether to show a warning first or just quit the app, or you want to show something else, so you can do that. So there are some key points, and the key point is that navigator 1 is for simple apps where you quickly want to create a prototype, and navigator 2 is for much more complex app where you have many pages and you want to make sure you can manage your app state, and your state will decide which screen will be visible. So what next? What you can do, you can read from all these examples. I would suggest a YouTube video from this one, Simon or Dominic. So these guys know a lot about Flutter in general, and they are actively contributing. So you can take a look at their content. And then there are many packages which are now using uh, Navigator 2.0 APIs, and they give you much simpler way to use them, and uh, it is much much less code, and a lot of code can be generated for you in the background. So that's great. And if you have heard recently, then you must have heard Go Router and Auto Route at least, because these two packages are very famous on for helping you build your apps, your routes, and that too with so much less code. So I'll mark this as complete, and let's move forward. So deep links and web URLs. should we do? So let's look at what this is about. So sometimes, let's read it aloud. Sometimes opening your app and working through the navigation to get to a screen is just too much trouble for the user. Redirecting to a specific part of your app is a powerful marketing tool for user engagement. For example, generating a special QR code for promotion and then letting the user scan the code to visit the specific product in your app. And it is cool and effective way to build interest in the product. In the last chapter, you learned to use Navigator 2.0 to move between screens with router widgets, navigating your app in a declarative way. Now you learn to use more features of Navigator 2.0. Specifically, you'll learn how to deep link to screens in the app and handle web URLs. So it is if you have used Zomato or Flipkart or Amazon, if you tap on their link from web or anywhere, your if your phone contains has their app, then it will automatically open and it will open to a specific page. So that kind of feature is very useful for users, and we would want to have that feature, and this section is all about that. And those kind of URLs are called deep links, like this. So fooderlick ravenderlick.com/item should create a new item by default. So as soon as the this link is getting inputted, I mean, if you click on a link which has this, then your app will pick this up and quickly open itself, and then you can I mean, your users can go to the grocery item page, and this will be very nice experience compared to opening the app and letting users figure out where to go. Okay, so there are types of deep links. The first is URI scheme, second is Android app links and iOS universal links. So URI schemes are like this ones, where instead of HTTP, you have your custom scheme, and you put that in the front, and then :/ and your domain and your path. So this can be any random thing. You just have to follow a format there where you have a domain, a scheme, and a path, and you can change the path to change which page do you want to go to. Then there is universal links, iOS universal links. So it is a special link for Apple devices, and you can when you are building Apple apps, you can use these links. There are Android app links, so you can know more about these things in detail by following these articles on Revendelic. And this in this app, we will be using simple URI schemes. Okay, let's change the starter app and see what what we will have next. Chapter 8, final project. We'll again to get packages. And then this one, let's see how to set up the URL. So will be using two new packages. First is URL launcher. It is used to open any URL using system. And second is shared preference. So shared preference is a feature on Android and iOS both, which lets you store some data, uh, very little amount of data, for example, key value pairs or simple lists, and you can retrieve it later. So yeah, that's it. It's that simple. Then let's set up deep links. And to set up deep links, you have to do some things on both, some configuration on both sides, Android and iOS. So on iOS, you have to add CF bundle URL types, and because now Flutter by default supports deep linking, we have a key Flutter deep linking enabled, and all the events related to all the URLs will be passed to our app in our Flutter domain. Earlier, we had to do this patching manually or by using some packages, but now it is inbuilt. That's great. And then setting up deep links in Android will need you to change something on manifest, Android manifest XML. And here also we have a flag, and then we have this scheme and host. So now after configuring all that, we should be able to get information whenever this Android system tries to open any URL which has this scheme footer link, and host is ravendelic.com. So yeah, so this was the way to tell Android your iOS or your iOS system that you will be handling these kind of URLs. So with path, so the first two pieces, scheme and domain, was to identify the app and open it. And then the path, we'll use the path to see that where we want to where we want our user to land on when they open our app. And there is another interesting thing, because we have multiple tabs, we can do query parameters also. So if you have opened a website which takes query parameters, you may have seen this pattern in URL where there is a question mark, then there is key value using equal in between. So we can use this, and we can put tab is equal to 123 or 012 for us here, and we want our app to automatically select the tab depending on the index number. Then path profile should land on profile tab directly, and we should also be able to open any items page using its UUID. And okay, it is saying that these URL paths will work the same way for both mobile and web apps. And when you deep link on mobile, you'll use the following URL scheme. And on website, we'll be using localhost colon slash slash uh, loc localhost, and in the path component, we can have our path. On websites, you do not have to prove the authority over a scheme or domain because your domain itself is hosting the web page, and that proves the source uh, of uh, origin of the path or origin of the app state related to navigation. Okay, so we are now back here, and here we'll use router delegate to receive all the uh, events, and let's look forward here. So from how this navigation thing works using schemes is that your operating system tries to open a route or say a URL which has our scheme, and operating system sees that we are capable. So our app is capable of opening this scheme, and it gives all the information about the URL to us, to the app, and we can use route information provide a route information parser to parse that URL and then decide where we want to go. So here, like this one, route information parser dot parse information will parse route information will parse the URL, and it will convert it into our type. So let's do that. So here, um, okay, so here we have the location. So we'll receive our path here, uh, actually the whole URL, and we can decode it using URI class. URI class is specifically used for decoding URL pattern, and once we have decoded that, we can extract URI query parameters, and inside the query parameters, we can decide what it has. So in parameters, it it is a key value pair. So if the key value pair contains the tab parameter, so tab is equal to 0 or 1, then we want to set that as current tab. Then if it has the item ID parameter, then we want to parse that if possible. Else, we just want to collect all the information and package it inside our own class called applink, and then return it. So we had already done it, and uh, we can also do reverse. So we can convert our app state into a URL, and this is the logic for it. So earlier we took a string inside, and then uh, calculated our app state, and reverse through that. What we can do, we can look at our current app state and build a path. So it is doing that only, it is building a path, and it is adding all the key pairs into query parameters, and then it is using all that information to build a URI. So you can convert it back to string, and then export it if you want. So now this is route information parser. It will use the app link that we created from the string that we received from system, so the URL, and we converted that into app link, and then here we'll use this to decide where we want to go by using this location, and uh, we can pass that location into route information. Yeah. Once that is done, you'll see that there is nothing else needed to be done, and it will After parsing, it will give that information to router delegate and it will rebuild itself. You just have to pass the router delegate inside your material app, and that's it. So this illustration shows the same thing. Yeah. Oops. Okay. Think I missed some pieces. So yeah, this is the function which actually uh, does a few things. Like if you're trying to go to profile, then it will open profile for you. Then if you are trying to uh, add a open the new item, and if you have item ID, then it will open uh, the item editing page with some data, or it will create a new item. So all that, and that's it. So similarly, we can also convert it back. So this is what this class does. If you are logged in, it looks at your current app state and then builds the app link depending on that. So this seems very complex, and you can definitely go and check the packages like autoroute and go router to understand when to do all the same things without uh, needing to write this much code. So yeah, so while testing the app, that there are ways. So one way for iPhone is that you can do XC simulation control, and you can open your URL, and it will pass an intent to your app, and your app will react accordingly. So it is showing all the combinations. So we can open our app to profile or a specific item, or uh, yeah, and then if we press logout, then it is showing us uh, what will happen. And if you want to test this in Android emulator, then you can create send an intent using ADB, and using ADB you can do this. You can start an intent which is of type action view, and category is browsable. Pass the URL and it will launch. It will deliver that intent to your app directly, and your app should react correctly. So all the examples that we wanted to have is here, and to reset everything you can do clear cache and then start again. So similar thing for web. So if you open web and then you specify a specific web page, you add the path, tabs, or other parameters, it will load the appropriate page. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, it was quick. So what you can do today is try to read chapter 7 and 8, and try to understand the code here, what it is doing and why it is doing, by reading the theory. And I hope that you were able to understand what we were discussing here, and I hope you build something with router. And if once you are good with this chapters, you can definitely go check out Go Router, and it will be much simpler to use. And there are many other uh, items or projects that you can look at which are using this kind of navigation 2.0. So check out these links, and that's it. So what next? We are done with today, and next time what we will take is networking and persistent state. So I think we'll be able to easily go through shared preference, serializing with JSON, networking with Flutter, and we'll leave Chopper to you. The Chopper is much simpler way to do HTTP calls, and then we will later pick up state management and streams. Cool. And then we have cool things in the box, which is deployment. So once you have built your app and it functions the way you want, then you will have want to deploy it to Play Store and other places. Uh, then how do you do it? There is some preparation that goes when you are trying to publish it for the first time, or even when you are trying to do an update. So we'll look at it in by using my console. I have a developer account on Android, so we'll look at it. Yeah, let's see. So I wish you good luck with uh, with these two chapters, and do try to practice. And I'll see you next time. Yeah. Okay, Jatin. Yeah, Jatin. It is on YouTube. It will stay here, and if and anyone who wants to follow us and get updates when we come up with these episodes, you can follow us on meetup.com/flutterAHM, this one. And you can also follow us on Twitter with this link, twitter.com/flutterAHM. And yeah, that's it. So if you need help, can reach out to us, and we'll try to uh, get your questions answered personally. Yeah, then signing off. You goodbye.